Andor Season 2. Alright, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. I'll be doing a spoiler review right after this one. Man, so coming off Season 1, a lot is expected. Season 1 was great, written really strong. As the season progressed, it got better and better and better, slow-paced, and the first few episodes were some of the weaker ones in the entire series. But a highlight of it was the writing, including monologues, strong characters, and a strong, well thought out plot. In that season, Cassian, one of our protagonists, he transitions from, not wanting to do anything with the rebellion to transitioning to a rebel soldier. In this season, we see his arc go from being a rebel soldier to eventually a leader. And we continue the journey of the supporting cast, literally in Andor, but also in all of Star Wars, right? The rebellion itself, Mon Mothma, Luthen, Willman, Saw Gerrera. We get more of these characters and more from Andor in this season, somehow just bringing it up another level from season 1. The main plot of the season, without giving too much away, circles around this planet that the Empire's got their eye on for their own personal gain, eventually leading to massive reveals and one of the more sinister things the Empire has done in the world of Star Wars. Against him is our heroes, slowly leading to our points in Rogue One. And we see these characters grow individually and together. Man, this season, the more I think about Andor, I feel like it shouldn't have been called Andor. Not really. It should have been called like The Rebellion or something like that. Cassian is a strong character, but it's made clear in this series that he's just one of many. Just take a little pause. Subscribe. Thank you. Hit that bell. Ring a ding 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 ding. And that's what makes it so great. There's no Jedi, there's no lightsabers. No, these are the people that set the foundation for those heroes, for Luke and for everyone, Leia, Han Solo. These guys are the origins of the rebellion. But like I said, you really get an overview as to how the rebellion came to form, what led to the events of Rogue One, the original trilogy. At times, Cassian seems like a lead player in some episodes, and at times he takes a seat back and we see from his perspective, his eyes, his observations, and sometimes he's even absent from the episode, lending screen time to very well developed and written characters. And then you don't even miss him. You're just so entertained with Luthen and wondering how badly he would beat you in chess, the story's extremely satisfying, and man, it's just visually, it looks so good. I believe it was just under 700 million. That was the cost of this overall series. And oh my, you could just see it. You could see it. You could see the care. You recognize good work when you see it, right? And you see it in Andor. The production design, all of these other Star Wars shows, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, todo eso, they invented this thing, right? That's basically a 360 screen that creates the environment for the characters, for the show. Andor said, nah, we're going to go on location. We're going to actually feel cold. We're going to feel hot. And we're going to build elaborate sets that they themselves have a lot of character. And there's so many videos out there that dissect the settings and the sets themselves. But you could just tell from the get-go, there's just a lot of care that's going on behind this, right? And the money, every single dollar is put on screen. It's very, very impressive work, creating a unique atmosphere of Star Wars. But man, I can't keep going without talking about the head honcho, El Mero Mero. For the best shows, these elaborate, thought out seasons of storytelling sometimes have this mastermind behind it, right? Succession's got Jesse Armstrong. The Game of Thrones has D&D to a certain point, and George R.R. Martin. Peaky Blinders has, I believe, Mr. Knight. Andor's got the incredibly strategic Tony Gilroy. And you know what this season felt like? It felt like I was watching a grandmaster at chess play his game in the form of television writing. And actually, I think that's a pretty good analogy because chess is a patient game, which reflects the pacing of the season. But if you play the game right, then your payoff is very satisfying. And this guy, Tony Gilroy, played his game Magnus Carlsen level. It's rare that you feel like a show is so methodical, so well planned out, man. You know, you've heard it before, a character is only as smart as its writer. But when you have all of these characters making intelligent, competent choices, you gotta think like, damn, like the author is like big brain. And yeah, man, in this season, you have a feeling of payoff that is rarely found in television. I'm serious when I say that in this show, you'll find some of the best television ever made. That stuff that's been built off from the last season, it's just so satisfying what they do with everything. All of the setups, all of these pieces. When they come to a clash, when they come to a head, it's everything you want and more. Hey, the Empire is competent, strategic, and it just... it's just so cool because it makes the villain feel so much more threatening, right? When you have a villain that thinks the crap out of everything, it forces our heroes, you know, our protagonists to just outthink them. And sometimes that's not done. But that's just good writing, creating more of a reason why the Empire has to be taken down, why the events in the original trilogy and Rogue One had to be made. From that side, we get a stronger arc for Cyril from season 1, acting as a great foil for Cassian's character. Dedger gets into positions of power that can have massive consequences for the events later on. And her actress and Cyril acted the crap out of this season. And especially in some episodes towards the end, man, like you just can't keep your eyes off the screen, man. Just take a little pause. Subscribe. We've got Partagaz, who's the embodiment of composure for the Empire. And we see in this season the cracks of the Empire more than ever before. Tony Gilroy taking a lot of inspiration from World War II, from fascist governments to create the Empire in Andor. And one of the many weaknesses of these sort of establishments and governments is eventually, in a way, their greatest weakness is themselves. And this season's exploration of that is very, very satisfying. On the rebellion side of things, you focus on Cassian, Luthen, and the supporting cast, Willman, Saw Gerrera, their continued struggle in this fight, and for some, the struggle to continue believing in it. If Partagaz and Dedra are the puppeteers of the Empire, from what we see, then Luthen is a puppeteer for the rebellion. And that continues here. We don't see as much as Luthen as we did in season 1, but actually in this season, we do get a full episode of just him, focusing on him, his reasoning behind the motivation, the strong motivation that he has, and an exploration of a relationship he had with someone close to him. Very good stuff from Skarsgård. And from Cassian's side of things, man, Diego Luna's he's got this subtleness that I think he's become a great performer of that. This subtle acting, man. He's got these nuances. You know, if in a moment of emotion, any other actor would overact, you know, unnecessarily throwing things around, trying to cry, and their muscular face, just, you could tell that they can't even cry. They're blinking while crying. And it doesn't sell it for you, right? A lot of actors in a scene of intense emotion just can't bring that out of them in a realistic manner. And there's more than one episode where Diego Luna is asked to do this and he delivers. This guy acts the crap out of Cassian's role. And I'm very, very happy to see him and Andor succeed the way it has. If people say, yeah, Andor's my favorite TV show ever, no one can really fight it, right? Because from beginning to end, it's very strong and it got gradually better and continues even more here, exploring themes of sacrifice, of what do you give up for all of this? You know, the events that happen later on in Star Wars. Andor points a camera at these people without powers who are just giving as much as those who do. And it's very inspiring and it's great writing. You know, these people that you'll never hear about later on, they're the ones that built this huge rebellion. And the tragedy that's tied to almost every character is what they gave up. What did they give up for the cause, for this fight that so desperately had to be fought? It's written really well and it's so satisfying. What Tony Gilroy does with Cassian, with Bix, with Luthen, Clea, very good stuff and emotionally satisfying, you know, just delving deep into what forms a rebellion, what inspires people, the cost of war, loyalty, and truth, and why it's so important to fight for that. I mean, that's what the best art is though, man, isn't it? Substance. that's what it is. It's not something that just looks pretty, but it's something that makes you feel something. And Andor does that. It moves you emotionally. It stirs something in your heart. And the best examples of this for me is in these two episodes, episodes 8 and 9 for Andor season 2. Man, some of the more brilliant and best television and overall just writing that I've ever seen. Very, very moving, emotionally satisfying. It I cried. I did. But this is it. This is not just Star Wars at its best. This is television at its best. Really hope Tony Gilroy gets more projects to do in Star Wars. If he wants. If he doesn't want to, then whatever he'll do next, I'll check it out. From a technical standpoint, the music is strong. You know, the guy who made the music for the Succession show, he made the music for this. He's a talent, dude. The cinematography is so good. And like I said, visually, the visual effects, they feel movie level, man. And all of these factors help create this visually gritty look that I'm a big fan of. And all in all, the cherry on top is that this is just such a great addition to the Star Wars universe. So good. Adding so much more depth to Rogue One. I'm serious. Like, check out Rogue One after this one. You'll get a lot more out of it. But also to the original trilogy. You know, I've heard people argue that it's not Star Wars and how could it be Star Wars and everything. I don't get it. It's just a bunch of pishikaka to me. How do you not consider it Star Wars? To me, Star Wars is a setting. It's a place where some of the best storytellers should be able to write the story in this universe as long as it doesn't, you know, retcon anything important. Anything important from the other films, from the great TV shows. If you retcon The Acolyte, that's fine with me. And you know, I've heard of some people say that, you know, these things are not what George Lucas would do. And dude, George Lucas sold Star Wars. Like, it's not his anymore. All due respect to him. He's an amazing filmmaker. He's got a great mind, very creative. I don't need to suck up to George Lucas, but he sold Star Wars to Disney. It's not his anymore, it's Disney's. And I just think what matters more to me is that we get a good story in this universe, a good story. I just really think closing the door to the series because of that, you're just missing out on a really good storytelling with some of the strongest writing. I also can't really imagine George Lucas not being proud of this. I'm pretty sure, man, he would be. My critiques are light, but I do got some. And that's that in the first few episodes. Some of the weaker parts of the season are combined in these first 2-3 episodes. Writing wise, I don't think it was that strong compared to the rest of the series. The rest of the season, sorry. And because this is Andor, a prequel of sorts to Rogue One, you should know that this season is not the conclusion to this story. But if I take out the series individually from everything else, yeah, it feels like there's something missing. Like, from this series, it doesn't feel like a conclusion, like a closed circle. Not entirely, right? But of course, that's what Rogue One is there for, the movie itself. But overall, man, great acting. Great story, strong writing, and yeah, some of the best television I've seen. Very big fan of this. Check out Rogue One after this, dude. For me, the show is a weak A+. Alright, I'm going to enter my parental advisory section. Spoilers are up ahead, so just a heads up. The show is rated TV 14, and as far as violence and gore, there is a massacre that takes place in episode 8. In episode 8 especially, there's a lot of violence, but throughout the season there's blaster fights, killings, fightings. If you ever get a character fighting another one head to head, then it looks pretty brutal, gritty. It doesn't seem like a choreographed hand-to-hand combat fight. It just feels like two humans just trying to survive, which is a part of the tone that I just really appreciated. But heads up, it does feel a lot more brutal than other fights. There are heterosexual and homosexual kissing scenes, but it's pretty short. And I think the most disturbing part of the whole season is there is an act of sexual violence that begins in season 2, episode 3. It has to do with the character Bix and an Imperial officer. She ends up fighting him off, but it's made clear what he was trying to do to her. So just a heads up, honestly, for kids, depending on who and what, might be a bit too much for them, that one. And yeah, this season, throughout it, the Empire is shown to be as evil as ever. But never for me really pushing past the TVMA rating. You know, there are even some subtle acts of violence that are more, you could tell what they did. They don't necessarily had to show it. So I appreciated that. Anyways, guys, let me know what you thought about Andor Season 2. Overall, the series, Is it a part of Star Wars? Let me know. Put it in the comments. Hey, I'll catch you guys next time. Please like and subscribe. Bye bye.